Becky.
Hey, Pam.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Pam.
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
All right, guys, I'm behind the camera right here because I'm trying to zoom in on these really awesome
Red Day ribbons for the fall. For
Becky
everyone.
made these for us, and so we're going to wear these for the fall to remind everybody of our folks who are deployed for our Red Friday. So, Nicole, can you introduce our guest today?
Yes, I can. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today with the Cooper Wild Group. We're here today with, Adam is here with us today, and he's with Liberty Mutual, and he's going to give us some really good information on insurance.
Adam, okay, so this year in Virginia, I'm pretty sure that most people are building an ark in their backyard.
Yeah.
It is, the rain has been crazy. We've had so much flooding. So we want to talk with you today a little bit about flood insurance.
Yeah.
Tell us what you know.
So flood insurance is something that is really important to look into ahead of time. So it's actually sold through FEMA. So Liberty Mutual, we are able to sell that, but it ultimately goes through FEMA. The important thing to note about flood insurance is you actually have to buy that at least 30 days in advance.
Wait a minute.
Wait, 30 days in advance. But what if we have a 45-day closing and we're halfway there?
Gotcha. So it has to be, well, let me correct myself. So 30 days is how long it will take before the policy will go into effect.
Okay, so in other words, if Hurricane Becky is coming, then, and we've got, we hear about it on the news, we can't just call you and go, hey.
Right. Unless we have some forecasts that are really good and they're 30 days out, but for the most part, we're not hearing about these storms until within that 30-day window. So it's really important to be proactive with your flood insurance. Now, the nice thing is most homes aren't going to require flood insurance. If you're not in a floodplain, you're not going to be required. So if it's something that you want to purchase, it's actually going to be fairly inexpensive if it's not required because you're in a floodplain. Okay. But just something that it's really important to be proactive with.
Nicole, you had a great question, or you said something really interesting just a minute ago when we were talking about it.
Yes, so my grandmother has a home, and her home is in Hampton Roads area. Well, last month, of course, everybody on the East Coast got hit really hard, and so I was trying to shop for reasonable rates for flood insurance. Well, X company would not provide me with insurance, but I called Adam because I remember Adam's a good guy here. He's going to do it all. So I called Adam, and he was able, with Liberty Mutual, to find coverage for my grandmother's home.
Very cool.
Yeah, there are several times when a storm's coming in where insurance companies will have to place what's called the moratorium, where they'll stop writing insurance depending on the severity of the storm and where the storm is coming into. So it's another reason why it's just so important to be really proactive to make sure that your home closing doesn't get delayed if there's a storm where companies can't write insurance. Now, the nice thing with Liberty Mutual is we actually have the ability to write with several other companies, so we're partnered with those companies. So we have lots of opportunities to shop around to make sure we're getting the best rates and the best coverages to make sure that home closings don't fall through because of anything related to the weather.
Tell us about the difference between when water comes in your basement through under the door or through the ground. When does flood insurance kick in?
Yeah, flood insurance would kick in when it's coming in from the outside. So we're not talking about a pipe bursting, we're not talking about your sump pump overflowing. Okay. It's when water's coming in like through the walls, essentially.
Gotcha.
Now that brings up a really good point because the number one claim in Virginia is actually water sewer backup, where that is if someone's sump pump overflows, if a toilet
really
overflows. Stink. Yeah, especially if the toilet overflows, that really stinks.
Yes.
And it's really important to have that coverage. It's typically not all that expensive, but it is the number one claim in Virginia. So it's really, really important to make sure that when you're buying your home that you have that water sewer backup. And I would recommend to have at least $25,000 of coverage. That would cover you to get the basement dried out, new drywall put in. So it's not going to be an overly cheap fix, but if you have at least $25,000 of that coverage, that would set you in a good spot. So that's something that it's easy to be left off of a policy to save a little bit of money to try to make sure the debt to income ratio is right. But you don't want to put yourself at risk of not being covered.
Yeah, that can cost you big time. And we've seen a lot of folks this year, haven't we, Becky?
Yes.
And Nicole, we've seen a lot of folks this year really have some serious issues with all the flooding we've had.
Mm-hmm.
you had a great story.
Yeah, and this goes to just with the water sewer backup. So we had a client who just 2 summers ago went on vacation. As she was going on vacation, she went off, was having a great time. Little did she know, she had one of those freezers that had the automatic ice makers.
Right.
So the water was, it comes up into it, and when it works right, it makes the ice and then turns off when the ice is full. Well, unfortunately, the freezer malfunctioned, and the water just kept coming up and kept flooding. Like, it overflowed the freezer, it flooded out into the kitchen, and there was just a ton of damage to the house. Now, fortunately, this person did have water sewer backup on their policy, so it is something that was covered. But it's just something where things like that you may not even think of, but it's so important to have that water sewer backup coverage.
Wow. Heck, I think you walked into a house once where something like that happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a
it had a glacier coming down from
Yeah.
the freezer where that part was still freezing, but the water was running down into the basement and everything. So it was like, yeah, it
Right.
was
Yikes.
very impressive to see this blob of ice coming down from the
Yeah, it can
freezer
happen.
like that.
Adam,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Hey, if folks want to get a hold of you, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way, so you can call our office at Liberty Mutual. My direct line is 240-529-5564, or just send me an email, just adam.forsberg, FORSBERG @libertymutual.com.
And I will put all of his information on this video also, so if you couldn't write fast enough, we've got it for you.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I just
Thanks,
want to say
Em.
one other thing is to make sure you review your flood policy as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Make sure you have those things included.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.